My name is Dan Gregersen. I'm the founder of PI Architecture, and I've been working with SAP Process Integration and XI for the last 7 years. And I was asked by one guy earlier about what is the process that I'm using when I'm working on requirements gathering. And well, I was thinking, gee, that's a large topic, and I hadn't put much attention on what it was for a process that I'm doing. I was looking into it and trying to see how does this all work. Am I doing the same thing, or do I change my approach for the different customers or clients? And one of the things I noticed is there's a big challenge, a difference between if you are an implementation project where you have like a global team sitting, or local team or whatever, sitting in the same place and are just working on solving some issues. Or if you are working on a client that already has a SAP and ERP system and just want to enhance some of the functionalities that they have. And well, because on the big projects you have a lot of teams saying, oh, this is the full list of all the projects we need to go through and here's how they're working. Whereas on the smaller clients and smaller projects, more like, we didn't need this interface, we're not sure on the process for creating it, but just create it and give us the information afterwards and we'll be happy. And well, it works in a lot of instances and you get something done, but you waste a lot of time. So why not focus on getting all the data that you can in the beginning and then make that something that will solve your problem. So the way I'm approaching this and see it as most interesting is, first off, you need to find what is the process that you're trying to support with this solution. How does it work? So these are the questions you need to ask the business in order to gather all the required information that you want. Also, I've created a template, or working on a template that will guide you and the business through gathering all these requirements in a structured way that makes it easier to implement. But I'm still working on testing it, but you can find a link below here that will take you through the status of how that is going on. But yeah, the first, figure out the process, what's doing, maybe ask the business, why do you want this? Because it'll give you a lot of more detailed information that you want, and maybe you can see, okay, by doing this process, I'm actually making sure that I can go down to the store that this customer warehouse is supplying and buy a bottle of milk, or bag of milk, or whatever you're getting your milk in. But then you can see there's actually a reason for it, and maybe they can even say, well, if we can do this solution, we can move everything to our shared service center and save a bunch of money, and that will be quite profitable. And I was like, good idea, let's do that. So ask these questions. Also, I really enjoy, well, find it interesting to get the place in the process chain. When I'm doing documentation, a lot of my documentation and naming conventions is tied up to the processes from, for instance, the ERP maps or the solution manager. That means you'd get the information from solution manager in an easy, understandable way, where you can say, this is just the process we need to create, here's how it's done, and it's done. It's a little different for other, I don't know how you create that, but I put that on as a separate task because it will make my naming convention easier, because I know the business objects probably and that kind of information, which uses in the naming convention. So it just makes it a lot easier. Then I want to gather information about the involved system in this process, because we all know that there's a lot of, well, most often you would have two different systems involved in this process, and you need to be able to get those in a know how they're working, what they are. That also ties in your systems. But no, maybe you need to log on to the system. Maybe you need to find the contact person that knows something about the system. Maybe it's a third-party system, like a tax system, that you don't know anything about, but you need to communicate with. So it's a good idea to know how this is working and how you can actually dig more into this. So when you have got that, maybe get access, whatever. Next step is to find the message format. If you're going, for instance, to update or create a sales order or something like that in an SAP system, there's many different options for that. You can use RFCs, probably. You can use enterprise services. You can use iDocs. Maybe there's some other options you can also do. And probably the same is true when you're communicating with third-party systems. You may have multiple protocol options. Some may be better than others. One time I was working with a client and they said, well, the protocol we're using now, which was a keyword, was it's using a TCP protocol that was been created by this vendor. And it's like, we can probably do that, but building TCP stack and adapter that will support that, it's going to be expensive. So can't we find another way to make this? And trying feverishly to talk with these guys and figure out who they were. And we went to a meeting down and I was like, don't you have other options? Oh yeah, we can communicate using FTP or files. Like, that saved a lot of money just to be able to know we could use it in a different way where SAP standard protocols is supported, so we don't need all the custom development. So figuring out those, figuring out the XSDs, the data format. A lot of times you don't get the data format if it's XSDs. If it's a CSV, you just get the CSV description, hopefully, and then you can create that from yourself. But then you at least got some information about what kind of process we're working on and what kind of data, how it looks, and you can create your own structure based on that. The next thing you need to worry about is the mapping, and hopefully the business can provide some of this for you, but to be realistic, that's seldom the case. A lot of times I've seen that the business say, we would like to help you with this, but we have no clue. And then you are just as good of trying to experiment, and hopefully you have test systems to experiment with putting in the information in the different fields and testing it out and see, oh, this is how it works. And that's also why it's a good idea you get some kind of business process understanding what's going on, because then you can see it's the sales order and you need the invoice reference or whatever to create that. That doesn't help. Well, you get the point that some of these things may be something you can drive from the process that you're supporting. Then you need to gather information about, do you need to do any process orchestration, any process monitoring around this process? And a lot of times they say, well, no. But anyway, would expect that you're doing something in a way that helps them support the business. And other time it's more like it's technical. You need to do it in an order for to collect the right data. Another thing you may ask, is there any security concerns? Dealing with encryption in Java-based environment is somewhat a delicate solution. Sometimes, there's a lot of encryption standards supported, a lot of them is working, and when you're communicating with people, you might have forgotten that one single item that they're expecting you to set in order for the communication to work successfully, or you need to do some encryption or signing or anything like that. So that's why it's really a good idea to have this kind of do we need some special security. It may also be that you're sending salary information and you don't want all PI developers to have access to the company's salary information. So that might be something you want to put into the consideration. Then we have something about the monitoring and criticality of this interface, and how critical is the interface? Does it really work for a long time, or what are all the benefits? Well, how can we monitor this? Do we need to be 24/7 monitoring on this, or this workday fine? So we need to gather those information. Then the fun part begins. Now you can start asking, can we do anything in a different way that will make the PI monitoring, support, development easier, and also maybe make the process run easier from the business side? That's especially true if we have a lot of requests back and forth and stuff like that. So you can see the whole picture of it. Then you may have to find out whether or not we're doing any custom development in this process, and if you're doing that, you may want to figure out this in advance so you can put the effort on how this is supposed to be working. So do whatever you can to make sure that it's working correctly. So that was my list of different things that I see is really a key component on things you need to do as a developer to become better at developing, and gather requirements so you can develop much easier. So I'm currently in the works of creating a template that works with this. I'm testing it out now, but I just wanted to get this video and this information out so you can start implementing it. Hopefully you also would find this template rather interesting. So go to the link below and sign up to my newsletter, and you'll be the first to know whenever that is released and being public available. So until we talk again, goodbye.